Okay, my outstanding friends, this is going to be a treat. These are giant skeletons, means bones basically, found across America, each one of these dots. Mud fossils are a whole different process than bones. Bones are much more recent than the mud fossils. The mud fossils happened during the Great Flood transition when the whole world was flooded and there was nucleophilic invasion. Which nucleophilic means in the nucleuses, converting them from flesh and stuff into actual stone. It's called nucleophilic invasion and substitution, mineralization, call it whatever you want. It changes that bone, that meat, that goose head into stone. All right, that's feldspar. Feldspar is the outer coating. It's the membranes on everything. You see that? That's where his neck was. It's hard to see now. But you can see the structure. If you look at it, you put it in, whoops, you got to get it in the right light. That's where his neck was. Right up there is the artery. And I've taken it out, scraped blood out of there. The vein side does not open up like the artery side. Here's his nose, his beak, whatever you want to call it. Got the little, hold on here. One of those nose holes there. And there's his feathers. There's his feathers on the top. And they all turn into mud fossils during that particular stage. Now, they're going to say, oh, that's crazy. Well, I don't care what they say, because it's not crazy, it's true, and they're the ones that are crazy, because they would say this happened, there was a Triassic era, it took 50 million years to happen. That took a couple of weeks. The whole Earth was flooded, and then all of the dead creatures soaked in because of these heavy silicates. The silicates invade and stabilize, and you end up with this. On one side is flat. You can still see where his neck actually went, you see? But it lay flat like this. And then finally, the waters receded, the mud ran off, the goose was found like that. That's that little goosey stuff they have underneath. And I showed you what it is. And I have so much of this stuff, it's just stunning. Bones did not stay bone. They didn't stay bone, they didn't stay white. And I have fingertips that's 7 inches long. I have another one 3 feet long. DNA tested. DNA tested. And what happened was, in the Connecticut area where I am, there's quite a few of them around. I mean, they're everywhere. But this is what's called a Triassic zone, which is all that layer, which is the red bed, the gray clay, the black cap, is all wedged right there and open. There's nothing above it. And if you look in the right places, you find dinosaur footprints. This Dinosaur State Park is up here. Well, I don't have to look. I go through my rock fences. I had I had a little bit of acreage. And what they did in Connecticut, they fenced off all of the lots basically to grow. And they put all the rocks up on the side, and they have all these stone walls. They just, in my condition, they just piled them in there. There was no making nice walls or anything. Just get the hell out of the way, and they stack them up. And I'm talking big, big, big rocks. And every one of them is a body part. And the bigger they are, in these conditions here in Connecticut, the easier they are to understand what they are. Because they do erode, they do change a bit, but not like, it's absolutely well, here, I show this all the time. It's a hair follicle from some kind of giant creature. Hold on. All right, this is a hair follicle. I just talk to doctors. Anybody that's got any half a brain on it can easily see this. This is where the muscle attaches to this, so they can make your hair go up on end when you get scared. All right. This is obviously the hair shaft coming up, right up through there. The root comes down around to here, and those two dots are these hair papilia. This is completely transitioned to a different, it's whatever this originally was, these different materials have been invaded and stabilized primarily from silicates and a specific type of mineral, because it's all basically the same. Usually you're going to see different colors. You do with the membranes where the muscle attaches. That's always going to have, 1, 2, 3. That's how they come in there, and they just lock in there. And then this is the sebaceous gland, dripping down the side here. And that's about 2 inches wide, so that's pretty good size. And then I found these kind of things here, and people found them all over the world, really, all over the United States for sure, because I had a bunch of stuff sent to me. I have the springfoot ones too, and I think this is a springfoot, but it's deep inside, and it pivots on this little pin right here. See that pin? These are 2 sets of springs. And the other one is different than this, I think. I don't, this has got to be investigated. Somebody should look at it. And this is the crease in the leather of the foot. I drill into them to get the DNA out of them. I get DNA tested, and it's human Homo sapien. You see where that's stretched up this way? That's because the guy was stepping this way all the time. This would have to come up this way, so you need that, just like you have on your own foot. And then the skin here is just designed to go up like that. The same thing over here. And that's the pin. And you have the tibia, which is the big bone, goes right here. And the fibula, which is the same thing we have on our foot, goes to the side of it and is linked together by a ligament. And that's how you can step and do all that kind of stuff. And then of course I have the springfoot ones. All kinds of stuff, so much stuff, and it's a little disconcerting that the people that are teaching your kids don't allow this to be seen. I mean, I'm serious. I'm not saying it's just, there's nothing there. Let's talk it over. I'll show you you're wrong. No, nobody shows me I'm wrong. I show them they're wrong, and they just never respond. And in the meantime, the cost of an education, which I don't call an education anymore, if you go get a trade somewhere, that's an education. If you learn some material thing, programming, that's fine. But this archaeology, geology, we're going to figure all this out. No, it's just all figured out. It's just got to be looked at and understood. And then we got to relate to everything in our history, 100%. I feel like I lost my life. In the last 15 years, I realized that not a damn thing that I was told or told to feel or react. Nobody could tell me anything anymore. After that, I said, that's it, done. I couldn't find a single person to relate to with the evidence that I was discovering. And since then, it's a compulsion. I mean, it's a drive. I'm not going to stop. And it's just what it is. So, I know I must look like I'm either a nutcase going on this mission, or I'm out for fame or fortune or something. I don't want fame, I don't want fortune. I want this to be understood. This is our history. This is our past. I like to speak, and that does, you need some fame to do that. The money doesn't have any interest to me. I'm doing fine with what I got at the moment. And I don't need any big equipment. This is it. I just go pick the stuff up and I look at it. I got a little microscope here, Celestron microscope, telescope, and it's good. It's excellent. It's probably all I need. I had a real fancy one, but I don't need that because other people can take those real fancy shots. They don't know what they're looking at, but they take those shots, and then I can look at them and see. I'll let them take the time to do that, because you've got to stain them and slide them and cut them and slash them and all that kind of stuff. It just didn't work out for me. As a matter of fact, I gave that microscope to a good friend, my good friend Gil, who can use it in his autopsy work. It was, it was a real good microscope, and I thought I would use it, but no. This is all you need. Telescoping microscope works fabulously. So I want to say thanks to Ems Montana for alerting me to this stuff. I got a lot of friends now that I learn from people sending stuff. I've got a lot of research on my own, but what they send me, then I research that, and then that leads to another part. And it's just there's never a dull moment. I'm telling you right now, this is what's happened to me in the last 15 years. I haven't had one dull moment. I had a lot of irritational moments, yes. And I had a lot of, I went from being hopeful that people would even look, and it didn't happen. And I mean, they took it as an extreme offense. That's what upset me. I said, well, explain this. I don't have to explain everything. I said, well, I'm just asking you. Bones don't do that. That's a stone. And that's what they told me from Yale. Derek Briggs from Yale. And that was a nightmare. Absolute nightmare. I ended up getting DNA tests and CAT scans and everything else. Still. And they ended up changing the name of geology into planetary sciences, and they show a big picture of a mud fossil on top. And I'd ask for my money back if I had gone to Yale for geology. They should have known better than that. See this? Yale's research in exceptional preservation focuses on fossils that retain soft tissues, which a lot of mine do, allowing for insights into ancient life's ecosystem and evolution, particularly from sites like Hertfordshire biota. So I am right down the street from you. Leading a faculty such as Derek Briggs, who absolutely refused. And I got kind of nasty. And I hope they do something about this. This is not right. Yale's supposed to be a big fancy school? No. I give them basically a 0. I am doing the grading today. Lydia Tarhan, another one, she absolutely refuses. Now they named something after her. They use a combination of specimen-based analysis. Well, I used my eyesight, and then I used DNA, and then I used CAT scans. And I don't think they did any of that stuff. They just said they all did what I say. They fossilized in exceptional ways, I'll show you in a second, but it was only slimy, gooey creatures and little bit tinier things. And don't forget, I'm 15 minutes away from Yale. I said, please, let me bring these things down and show you. I don't need to see them. There's nothing but rocks. And that was Derek Briggs. Now, here's what he wrote a year and a half after I submitted all my stuff. And by that time, I already had CAT scans and DNA done because he wouldn't talk to me. And then he writes, exceptional preservation, soft-bodied creatures promoted by silica-rich oceans. Exactly what I told him, the silicates. And then Lydia Tarhan and him take credit for this. And they go through these, they're saying these are the littlest, but they're macroscopic multicellular organisms. No, slime is basically what they're talking about. If you read the whole paper, it's just about slimy things turned into like flat little, things that were fossilized, but they're just little slimy things. No big creatures. This was before. Wait a second, listen to this. Now, I want you to pay attention closely here. This is Yale posting this big article out about their fabulous discoveries here. And there's Briggs, Tarhan, Department of Geology at Yale University. They went to Australia to see these little gooey things in the mud. And they call them the Edinburgh biota. Edinburgh means that's where it is the name of a town or something there. And biota just means little creatures. Earth's earliest fossilized ecosystem of complex organisms occur in this terminal layer, which is the Triassic. strata worldwide. How the fossils are preserved remains controversial. No, it doesn't. I know exactly how they, and I should explain this to them. Now, they wrote this paper, well, I can tell you when it was. It was in the end of 2016. In November 2016. And guess who paid for it? We did. NASA. This is funded by NASA. I'm not kidding. Okay, I showed you the paper that I wrote to Briggs about silification, and my paper's the same thing. It's called Fascia-Facilitated Fossilization. It talks about all the silicates and all that. And this is from Briggs's paper here. It says an early silification taphonomic model indicates the geological abrupt appearance, an abrupt transition. These three layers, red bed, gray clay, and a black cap. All three layers, boom. And it says the abrupt appearance and subsequent disappearance of that same sort of stratus of the Ediacara biota, valid evolutionary signal. Well, yes, because it was the Great Flood. Now listen to this. Support for this research provided by National Science Foundation, Earth Sciences, Postdoctoral Fellowship, a grant from American Philosophical Society, Lewis and Clark Fund to Tarhan, a NASA exobiology grant to Drozer, Tarhan and Briggs, a NASA Astrobiology Institute fellowship to Hood, they give all this stuff. So what is this? Another one to, and the Foundations of Complex Life NASA Astrobiology Institute to Briggs. They get awarded with all kinds of stuff. This is my research. That is my research. I don't care what anybody says. And like I say, I wouldn't be happy if I was going to Yale and still learning this stuff, which is just not true. And they should have known it back then. They should have engaged with me. That's what scientists do. Not at Yale.